socks are off. Flying through the hallway like a disco ball. Hitching to the couch, then I loop through the fan. My tiny whoops grooving like a funky jam. I dip through the doorway, spin by the cat, bounce off the toaster, yeah, I meant to do that. Neighbors knocking, saying, what's that sound? It's my brush motor soul train getting down. Flying through curtains, dancing on breeze, freestyle funk in my living room with ease. Tiny whoop magic, bumping every wall. I'm the James Brown of flight, can't stop it all. I got LED strobes and a shag rug trail. I'm looping through the lava lamp, leaving a tail. My whoops got rhythm, my sticks got soul. I'm the pilot of the party. On a roll, TV remotes a gate, the lamps are dive. I'm flying like it's 7.5. No GPS, no rules, no shame. Just a funky little quad in a soul train frame. Move it low, we fly that flow. Move it low, grab that gap. No time to nap, no time to nap. Hit that roll, funk and control. Funk and control, bounce that wall. Bounce that all, we fly it all. Funk it all, we fly it all. Tiny whoop love, funky and free. We fly indoors, we fly with glee. Whoop it, loop it, groove it, move it, bounce it, flip it, funk it, rip it, fly that soul, don't lose control. Tiny whoop love gonna make you whole. I thread the needle through the vinyl stacks, bounce off the mirror ball, never looking back. My quad's got soul, it's got style, it's got sass. It dips through the incense like a blast from the past. I'm flying figure eights through the lava lamp glow, dodging house plants like a funky pro. My whoops got rhythm, my sticks got heat. I'm the pilot of the party with the grooviest beat. I loop through the hallway, I dive by the broom. I'm the disco ghost in your living room. I hit that split that's over grandma's chair. She just claps and says, boy, you got flair. I'm flying freestyle with a velvet touch. My quad so smooth it don't need a clutch. From the shag rug to the ceiling fan, I'm the funky little fly with a master plan. The curtains dancing on the breeze, freestyle funk in my living room with ease. Tiny whoop magic bumping every wall. I'm the James Brown of flight, can't stop at all. Can't stop at all. Can't stop at all.
What's up, friends? My name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to 5-inch, but by the end of the live stream, 7-inch Friday. I'm going to be taking the Razorback apart a little bit. A while ago, I need the other one. A while ago, Bob Brugge, stopped making these 7-inch arms for the... Here's what's weird. I swear to God he made these for the Cineglide, which is what you were just watching. But these don't work on the Cineglide. The way that the Cineglide plates kind of stack up... Oh, no, I'm sorry. So Bob made these 7-inch arms in 5mm thick carbon for the Cineglide. And then he stops making them. I asked him about them, and he was like, yeah, I'm not making them anymore, but I'll send you the files if you want, which he did. And then Ryan Harrell has a CNC. And so I said, Ryan, can you cut these for me in... I just got Nyogel all over me. I said, can we get a sheet of 6mm carbon and you cut these for me because they're so goddamn long. I thought, 6mm carbon would be better. And he said, yeah, and we bought a sheet of carbon. Took him a while to get it cut because the thick ass carbon demolished his CNC machine. But eventually, we got them. I got 3 sets of these. Patrick has one of them, and then I have the other 2. And I was like, great, I'm going to put these on the Cineglide. The main reason that I started screwing around with the Cineglide when I was doing that flying, so that was back on, I don't know, June? Yeah, June. Was that I wanted to fly the Cineglide around a bunch on 2508 motors. 2507 motors with all kinds of different pitch 5-inch propellers. This is when my pinky got annihilated. And the plan was fly it around a bunch, get a feel for it on super pitchy 5 and 5.5-inch props, and then switch it over to the 7 and see how the runtime compares, see how the flight feel compares, blah, 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 blah. I went to bolt these arms up, and there was a 1mm gap in between the base plates because the Cineglide is very specifically set up for 5mm arms. So these won't work on the Cineglide. And I really only have one other 5-inch rig with a 55 amp ESC, which is this Razorback, which was built to go fast. This thing flies just like the Cineglide, but with more up tilt. This is a 40-degree up tilt mount. This is a regular old glide frame. And with the regular glide frames, they have a standard sandwich plate setup. And so I can use these on this. So I'm gonna. I'm not totally sure that 7-inch props are gonna clear. If they don't, that's fine. I'll do 6-inch props. But I think we'll be okay. They are dead cat. This is gonna be the front. This is gonna be the back. Could be a tuning nightmare. Let's find out. The other total fail on my part is I didn't realize that these arms are 16 by 16 mount pattern. I just, for whatever reason, assumed that they would be slotted for 16 by 16 and 19 by 19. Well, the Emax motors that I bought to crank the 7-inch props, which were 2806 or 2807, they are 19 by 19. And apparently, all big motors like that are 19 by 19. But after a whole bunch of digging, I found that Brother Hobby makes a 2510 1380 kV. So 25 millimeters wide, 10 millimeters tall. That's a ratio of 2.5 to 1, which I don't love. This is a motor that's going to get overheated, but it's only going to get overheated when I really hammer on it. With 7-inch props, you're not really going to hammer on that rig. It's going to be a rig that it's going to be more of like a cruise fast and efficient. So I'm hoping that these motors will be okay. We'll find out together. I've found a couple people that have used these motors many, many years ago on 7-inch builds, and they absolutely love them. So let's give them a shot. Damn it. They could. This ratio of 2.5 to 1 is actually a really good ratio when it comes to like having a motor that's as lightweight as possible, that can do a burst with a ton of power, but then you just can't sustain that burst. So you have to cruise it, and then you can burst the throttle, and then you want to get off the throttle. It's not a motor that you can lay into the throttle and leave it like that. That might work really well for a build like this. Like I shouldn't need to fly this thing up here to go really fast. It should go really fast down here. And so, yeah, that's the deal. That's the plan for tonight, my friends. I've started to pull this guy apart. I'm going to dive right into desoldering these motors so that I can get the arms off, and then we'll swap that over. So let me actually say hi to everybody, and then we're going to jump straight to the bench to... matter of fact, I'm going to kick this soldering iron on right now. I have a funny I gotta be honest, I have a funny feeling I'm gonna end up putting this thing back onto these regular arms. But, for science! I chased RC drift cars last night, and it was a blast. I forgot how much fun it was. On Sunday's live stream, we're gonna dive into that and take a look at a bunch of that footage. It was under fluorescent lights, and I'm worried that it's going to be all flickery in 120 frames a second, but we'll find out together on Sunday because I haven't had a chance to watch any of the footage yet from last night. In the chat, Sporty was first, Matthew Wegner, McShaky, J-Dubs, Fizz, Penguin FPV, Chaser, Uke, McShaky again, Frank Nicholas, 421 Mantis, Toboggan, Alec Dvornik, Bob Noxious, McShaky again, Uriel again, Brandon's Baked Beans, Nyafu, Newborn, with an E, Skull 901, Metal Dirtskin. All the mods are here. Holy hell, half the chat is blue. Neo Flows. I think I got everybody. Thanks, friends, for coming, hanging. Just thanks. CiottiFPV.com to support me. Lots of cool stuff going on. This is totally crowdfunded. Hopefully I've saved you some money or helps you buy the right thing so that you don't waste money on the wrong thing. Hook a brother up, help me keep doing that for everybody, and we'll keep the learning going. And we'll all fly better stuff. McShaky FPV says, I am working on new Falcon Rad V2 7 to 7.5 inch. I've heard really good things about that frame, actually. That's going to be cool. Bob Noxious says, what's up? Uriel says, CiottiFPV and all, we are here. Brendan's McBean says, just send me a log. Thank you, dude. Very cool. Yes, this has black box. Thank God. Neo Flow says, I've got a 5-inch frame that flies for 10 minutes on a standard LiPo. Yeah, it's, you know, it's kind of one of the reasons that I think this is going to end up back on these 5-inch arms. I mean, first and foremost, because these motors are white, and this is the Razorback, which is a white and red ship in the show The Expanse. And so, you know, form over function and all. But yeah, 5-inch rigs, when you don't hammer the living hell out of them and fly them freestyle, they run for a long time. And I've done like long-ish range stuff with 5-inch rigs, and it's fine. They just go and go and go and go. But I've always been curious about the 7-inch thing. You know, these arms were something that I very specifically wanted these arms for that Cineglide. Because it's got the camera pushed all the way forward, so there's no props in view. Basically, what I wanted to build was a live broadcast rig that would be as efficient as possible. So, like, yeah, I just at this point I just want to use these arms, and maybe, you know, maybe this will be dead cat enough that there won't be much prop in view. I'm pretty sure there is going to be a little bit of prop in view because Patrick did almost this exact same thing, and I think I remember him saying there was a little bit of propeller in view. If it's only a little bit of prop in view and I run black propellers or gray propellers, maybe it's not noticeable. We'll find out. I gotta know. I've flown 7-inch rigs. I've never actually built one, and you know, I had the arms. It cost me a set of motors. It'll be fun, and hopefully good content. Hopefully we can learn something together about this. Uriel says hi, but the HIGH hi. Edwin 6880 is in the chat. Yeah, let's do it. Let's desolder some shit. Let's tear things apart that we will probably put back together the way that they are right now. But we will have had some fun before that happens. So, one of the reasons that I really dig these arm LEDs is that I want to change these motors out. So all I got to do is desolder this here. I'm tempted actually to desolder up here and leave this white arm LED on here, but that's kind of silly. I have to remove the tape anyway. And so, yeah, I'm actually going to desolder out here. I could like hook these motors up. Basically, what's going to happen here is that the arm LED is going to be all the way out, which is totally fine, but you could make the argument that you want to leave the arm LED on this 5-inch arm and then have a different length on the 7-inch arm, but that's fine. It's going to be all right. This is the quicker, lazier way of doing it. So this is flux paste, and this stuff is magic. Comes in a nice syringe with a super fine applicator tip. You can put it exactly where you want it. Because it's paste, it sits up on the solder joint rather than the flux liquid, which like kind of runs and gets all over the place. By having this paste sit up on top of the solder joint, there's more there, and you'll see a bigger puff of smoke when I hit this thing with the tip of the soldering iron. If you have smoke, that means that there is flux, which is keeping the joint nice and clean, which is what you want. And so smoke, good. No smoke, bad. Not necessarily bad, but not good. At this point, Jesus, what happened here? At this point, I use these magnified, this magnified headset for absolutely everything. I can certainly do this without it, but if I use it, I can see a lot better. And being able to see what you're doing is pretty cool. One of the little tricks with these arm LEDs too is you sit the soldering iron super flat here. Hold on, give you guys a little picture-in-picture view. Sit your hand down like this to get the soldering iron nice and flat, and you can actually hit all 3 of these joints at one time. So 1, 2, 3. Give it a second for the solder to flow. There it is. Lift the motor wires up. And then I'll usually just hit these pads one more time real quick. Actually, I'm going to have to add a little bit of solder to that pad, so that's fine. But that'll save you a little bit of time. Get the tweezers under all 3 wires. Soldering iron nice and flat. Kind of rock it back and forth a little bit too to make sure it hits all 3. Once they bottom out, just give it a split second for all for the entire pad to kind of flow. And then away you go. I should have just put flux on all 4. Whoa, what the hell happened there? A huge glob of solder. That was a bit much. All right. Get under all 3 wires. Nice and flat. Too much flux. Ooh, God, gross. The flux is chasing up the race wire. That's ugly as hell. Ew. That's gonna be hard to ignore. Oh God, the flux got it's all brown. Oh, that's ugly as shit. I'm gonna have to redo that one. That was a nightmare. Oh well, it's gonna happen again here. There's too much flux on this guy as well. Yep. Ew. It's the price you pay for being in a hurry, I guess. All right. So those motors are free. Now I just got to remove a bunch of screws. And I'm actually going to leave these motors bolted down to the arms. I'm going to peel this this white electric tape off each one of these arms because the arm LEDs are coming with me and the wires are coming with me. But yeah, I'm going to leave these motors bolted down to these arms. Uriel says, good content. I don't care about a bit of prop. You can say same of nice helicopter flights. All right, fair enough. Yeah, in the world of live broadcasts, they are typically not okay with prop in view. Look at this. I put these foam pads on the bottom of the electric tape. That's a weird thing for me to do. I know why I did it though. Yeah, in the world of like filmmaking and live broadcast and whatnot, it's it's a camera, it's not a quad. We don't care because we know what we're flying, but they don't want to see that kind of stuff. So that is important. Where's the end of the electric tape? Here it is. There used to be foam pads on the rear ones. It looks like they ripped off. Oh no, I have them out by the ends of the arm. I have them out here. All right. Uriel says, do you clean burned flush also with toothbrush? Yes, flux you should you can get off with a toothbrush and alcohol. Isopropyl. Comes off pretty easily. In this case, though, the flux ran down the shrimp wrap. So I'm gonna have to cut the shrimp wrap off and put fresh shrimp wrap on there. I won't do that now. I'll do that when I inevitably put this back onto 5-inch arms. Maybe not though. You never know. This might be super fun on the 7-inch setup. Patrick did not have luck, though. Patrick did not have luck with his setup on these 7-inch arms. I think that these arms are, the rear arms in specific, I think they're going to be too long. Typically on 7-inch builds, the arms are a lot wider than these. But you never know. We're going to find out together. He was also doing the same Emax 2807 motors. One of the things I did when I bought those motors are actually for sale. If you're in the market for a set of the Emax gigantic 7-inch motors, let me know. When I got the motors, I got them in kind of like a high kV, I think like 1600 or 1700 kV, under the thinking of with the 7-inch arms on, I would just motor limit them down, or I could run 5-inch props, high pitch 5-inch props, and crank the kV way up. Didn't quite work out that way because the bolt pattern is wrong. What Patrick did is he just filed out the holes on the arms. I didn't want to do that though, and so. But yeah, he did not have luck with those 7-inch arms. So we'll see. If I also don't have luck with them, then yeah, we know why Bob stopped making them. But it could have been because of the KV. It could have been just too much motor limiting on. 7-inch rigs are already tough to tune because the bigger the propellers, the lower frequency the vibrations. And when you go north of 5-inch props, the vibrations start to happen down in the range of the actual motion of the quad, like down below 200 hertz. And then it becomes a lot harder for the filtering to filter out the good vibrations and not the bad vibrations. Good vibrations, somebody should make a song about that. So yeah, there's that. Get out of there. All right, let's see if I've got these ARM LEDs VHB down. Of course I do. All right, so let's peel these up. All right, there's one. Here's the other. This rig has a T-motor 55 amp ESC. I have always felt like the T-motor flight control electronics, well, the higher end T-motor electronics seem to be made by Acon. So I believe this is basically an Acon 55 amp. 55 amp per channel, so 210 amps total. I don't think that these motors are going to come anywhere near 210 amps total. I don't think there are many batteries that can push 200 amps total that aren't like absolutely gigantic. So yeah, avoid the ultra high amp ruse that the electronics manufacturers have walked us into here. You really don't need 50 or 60 amp ESCs, especially for 5-inch rigs. Those are more for giant stuff like this. There is a school of thought that if you drastically overamp the flight controller, the ESC like that, it'll be more durable when you start smashing into stuff and it backfeeds. But I don't know about that. Well, I mean, first off, this is not a rig that we're going to be bashing into stuff, so should be totally fine. But yeah, I don't know. I've got Acon 35 amp ESCs that have been absolutely indestructible. To me, just making an ESC that is good quality is the thing that keeps them from blowing up. And so that is going to be sort of more important than having a 1,000,000 amp FETs on there. It's probably a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, though. Both things are probably true. So, yeah, if you could get like an Acon 65 amp ESC, it would probably be fully indestructible. That's not true. Nothing is indestructible when we start smashing these into stuff. So it's all a little bit pedantic, but there is definitely a difference. Like, good quality ESCs are important. And if you cheap out on an ESC, even if somehow it survives, it's going to typically have a more noisy electrical system, which is going to hurt your tune. And if you're on analog, it's going to make the video look like hell. So, yeah. Spending a little bit of extra money on an ESC, or at least doing a little bit of research to figure out which ESCs are good, is going to be well worth it. That is like the one main spot where you want to kind of splurge and get something that's nice. If you save a little bit of money on a flight controller and spend a little bit of that money that you saved on an ESC, usually that's going to be a better scenario than the opposite of that. So I've got Nyogel on this setup, and it's real sticky, and so it attracts lots of grit and sand and dirt and shit, so I'm just kind of wiping that off a little bit here, just so that everything is going to sit perfectly flat against the carbon. And so let's just get it off of there, off of there. The contact patch of these arms is a little bit bigger than the arms that were on it, which is why I'm taking a little bit of extra time to kind of do this. Okay. That's looking good. And let me just give this one more look, just kind of catching the light here. Got that, got that. Okay. Okay, that looks good. There we go. This Nyogel is like, there's a couple different kind of setups here, but this is Nyogel 767A. There are lubricants that are that help with vibrations, and this is one of them. I think Chris Rosser sells one on his website, if I'm not mistaken. It might be on FPV Cycle. I forget where it is, but it's the last couple percent. Like, there's kind of no reason to not use it, to be honest. But it doesn't make a huge difference. If it makes any difference, it makes a slight difference. But again, I bought it to test it, and there's no reason to not use it, so I use it. And, you know, it's as easy as that. I'm not like overthinking it. I have it, and it does work. It does make a little bit of a difference. On a bunch of occasions, I've broken an arm on a rig, and then when I've replaced the arm, I've pulled the sandwich plate off and I've Nyogelled all 4 arms. And when I put it back together, I can push the tune a little bit farther. And that's kind of all that matters. Like that is absolutely proof positive that something like this works. I'm going to do this in my sort of crotchal region here. There's not a whole lot for you to see. I'm putting the arms on and I'm putting a bunch of screws in. It's hard to get the arms in there and then the screws on. So I got to sort of do it this way. It's so much easier to do it this way. You're not missing a whole lot. Ask me some questions in the chat. And then this camera angle makes a lot more sense. When you put this dampening grease, that's what it's called. Damping grease, not dampening. To dampen is to get something wet. This is damping grease. You just put it on the surfaces that are going to be touching each other, and then swirl it around with your fingies. And it's disgusting stuff. It's very sticky. You know what it does too? It makes sure it keeps the screws from backing out. You don't have to run Loctite when you have this shit on here because it's relatively sticky. But yeah, you just moosh it around a little bit and then you're good to go. It's nothing too crazy. And you just want like a super thin little layer of it. You don't need to put a ton of it on there. I mean, yeah. A little thin layer of it. Like that, on both mating surfaces, and then in here, because the arms butt up against each other. No big deal. There's a little bit on here because I tried to put this together, and it picked some up from the plates. The sandwich plate and the base plate. When I was when I put the Cineglide together, the Cineglide has a bunch of Nyogel on it. Nyogel was like almost, it was almost a soft mount motor situation. But in the end, if you actually do some testing with it, it does make a little bit of a difference. Unlike the, on everything. It makes a little bit of a difference on everything. The soft mounting motors thing, it would make a difference every once in a while on a very specific build with a very specific vibration at a very specific frequency. And that's, that's correlation, not causation. Nyogel absolutely helps. It absolutely does a little bit. But it got a bad rap because people expected it to fix their destroyed janky-ass builds. And nobody said that it would. Like, Rosser never said, like, yeah, this will fix your shit. He said, hey, this is a thing that can potentially help a little bit. And absolutely it does. It is thick as shit, too. It is hard to squeeze out of here. You got to really squeeze the shit out of the tube to get it out. All right. There's 2. Here's the other 2. Euro says, build it upside down, camera is lower. I could try that, but then the camera would be in down tilt. I would have to have a different camera mount made. And I ain't that motivated. Kevin Sumner says, check Jay-Z 1, 2, 3, 4 above. Jay-Z, you got to put an @ in front of CiottiFPV now because YouTube likes to make live streaming as difficult as possible. It's absolutely ridiculous. Jay-Z says, which battery are you using? I have a bunch. I have 2 T-Motor R-Line 1400s. I have one, all 6S. I have one 1800, I think, and then I've got a China Hobby Line 2500, and then I've got a lithium ion cell, which I think is also 2500. These are all not that big, but the top plate of this regular glide frame is also not that big. So this is one of the reasons that I really wanted to do this on the Cineglide, because the Cineglide has a massive battery mount location. And so, yeah, I can't fit that big of a battery on this thing. But this is not really like a long-range rig, so I'm not looking to put a giant battery on this. I'm looking to go fast with this. You know, if I end up getting a live broadcast gig where I'm going to use this, I am going to have to figure out what the biggest battery is because yeah, runtime does sort of matter, especially if I'm hauling ass. But for the time being, yeah, I'm going to rock these batteries that I have, and we'll see how it is. There's a chance that this will be super, super, super efficient because of these motors being like lightweight for the amount of power that they can produce. Also because it's a glide frame. Like the glide frame is really, really, really lightweight. This is going to be like a giant toothpick in terms of flight characteristics because it's going to be on massive props, but it's not going to weigh all that much. So this will be a weird rig to fly, but you know it's being built for the purpose of efficiency and yeah, just like going fast, and that lightweight is what you want for that. So could be good. You never know. I'm keeping my expectations as low as possible so that my feelings don't get hurt. But we'll see. The main thing that I'm worried about is that these arms are not strong enough for the amount of energy that's going to come from the vibrations that 7-inch props are going to be dumping into this thing. And that the arms are basically going to like twist. I'm most worried about the twisting dimension on these arms. But again, you never know. Stranger things have happened. It might be totally fine. It's not going to get crashed, so it's not going to get banged up. If I can find like a really well balanced set of 7-inch props, which I'm hoping that I have in the last sponsor prop box that I got from GemFan, there were a whole bunch of their carbon nylon 7035 propellers, I think. But I've just been buying every time I do an order, I buy 1 or 2 sets of different 7-inch props. So I've got a bunch. I've got like 5 or 6 different types of 7-inch props. And so I'll try them all until I find the ones that are the best balanced. On a build like this, you can also absolutely justify balancing the propellers. I have a little prop balancer. 7-inch props should be big enough that they'll work on it. You know, this isn't a setup that I'm going to be changing props on much, if ever. So, you know, if I have to, like, I would love to run this on bi-blades. And so if I have to balance a couple sets of bi-blades, that's no big deal. Well, here, let's do this. It's going to get a little crotchy, but it's going to be all right. You guys can watch me struggle with this. Yeah, this is the best way I've found to kind of get arms set, because you can just kind of crotch it up, and then you can be extra crotchety. You know what I'm saying? This is the old school Glide sandwich plate. I should probably switch to... Yeah, I'm gonna switch to the newer Glide sandwich plate that is a lot stronger. Yeah, I'll put this with the motors. I'm gonna put those in a bag so they don't get everything all disgusting, because they're covered in that Nyogel. Kick this soldering iron off for the moment. Hold on, let me grab one of these newer generation sandwich plates that's a lot stronger. Hey, I got one right here. Sweet. So yeah, this is what the new generation of sandwich plate looks like. It's just a lot more carbon. It's a lot stronger. So we'll go with this guy. I don't really need to put Nyogel on this. I have enough of it on the arms where we'll be totally fine. So, right, let's get this guy flat. And I just got to try to remember... Well, here, I'll put it this way. This will make more sense for you guys. I just got to remember to put the right arms on the right side here. So, all right. Bottom plate. So we got these guys on the outside. I like to run these little aluminum cup washer things just to spread the contact patch of these screws out a little bit. It also looks kind of cool. No big deal. Not something that like you have to do, but I don't know. They don't weigh much because they're aluminum. They probably don't do much because they're aluminum. But if they do anything, then that's a little bit of a win. And you can color code more stuff. I mean, ain't nothing wrong with that. All right, so just get them started like that, and that's going to be fine. So here we go. This guy is going to go back that way. Jesus. That is ridiculous. These are huge. These arms are massive. I'm actually going to do this the other way. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put these. Yeah. Let's do this. I'm going to put them onto this base plate. It's been a long time since I've worked on a glide. I forgot this is kind of the move here. Hold on. You get the sandwich plate loaded up with the arms, and then you just put the whole thing down onto the bottom of the frame. So I'm going to screw these in enough that they'll hold the arms. And then I'll put the arms onto this guy. This is where an electric screwdriver would be really nice. But boy, is that rare. More often than not, it wouldn't really matter. Its render in it says, my freestyle 7-inch weighs like 3 pounds all up weight. Jesus. Make sure you put @ in front of CiottiFPV. YouTube is the worst. Kevin Sumner says that's what she said. Uriel says, can you heighten motors with 6mm carbon plate? Other motor dimensions. Well, if you put like a separate motor plate on there, yeah, sure. I don't know why you would want to do that, but in this case, since the arms bolt to the bottom of the central canopy, nothing's going to be raised up. It'll be the same height. It's going to be a little bit deeper on the bottom. Speaking of the bottom, the glide setup here allows you to run a battery strap through here. So if I really do like this setup, I'll probably not buy bigger batteries. I'll just run a secondary battery with a little 2-in-1 XT60 on this guy. That'll probably be the setup that I go with if I end up really liking this and I need more runtime. All right, so yeah, you set it in here. The Nyogel kind of helps it stick a little bit, but the rear arms are fine. The front ones are a little janky, but it'll... Yeah, no, here, we'll throw the other set of screws through here. That'll help these front arms chill out a little bit and stay where they need to be. So, hold on. I'm just kind of screwing this in here. Okay, there's one. Here comes the other. The back arms have a big enough contact patch where they're behaving and not moving all over the effing place. But these front arms just have this itty-bitty little contact patch between each other. And so they're trying to rotate out of the way. There we go. All right, so front arms are all set. So now I'm going to try to remember which way this goes. So this is going to go... This is going to go this way, right? Yeah, there's the front, there's the back. Okay. So yeah, just slap it down here. And then just catch the threads on these screws. Don't crank them all the way down. Just a couple turns so that they catch the threads and it doesn't fall off. And then We'll get them all the way in there. All right, that's looking good. Okay. So, those guys are hanging on. Just kind of move them around, see where the Nyogel is at. I put way too much Nyogel on. That's okay, though. I'll wipe it off in a little bit. So just make sure everything is seated properly. Let's get these extra 2 screws dropped down here in the back before we tighten anything, because otherwise you won't be able to get them through there a lot of times. Sometimes the screw holes in these arms will be really, really tight. Super annoying, but arguably it's a little bit stronger, because then you're going to basically thread the carbon as you're putting the screws through them. Total pain in the ass for like assembly and disassembly, but you know, you can sleep better at night knowing that it might be a little bit stronger that way. Wobble a little bit less, kind of thing. So here we go. Now these inner screws on this frame, these connect to the standoffs. And then the outer screws just have press nuts on the bottom plate that they crack into. So I always like to tighten up these inner ones first, since they're going into standoffs that might try to spin. This is also why, like, when I'm doing work here, I put the top plate on, because having the top plate on, the standoffs are screwed into that on the opposite side, so it'll usually do a good job keeping those standoffs from spinning. Otherwise, you gotta like hold the standoff, and then it's just silly and annoying. One more time, just kind of give these guys a wiggle, make sure they're in a good spot, and so now we can start cranking stuff down. I'm gonna crank these outside fellas down first here. I also like to use so the press nuts are steel. The standoffs that we run are typically aluminum. You can get steel standoffs, but holy shit, are they heavy. And so I like to run M2 2.5 millimeter socket-headed screws on the outsides here, so that I can really crank on them. And then I run regular button heads screws on the inside to remind myself not to crank on those, because they're just going into aluminum standoffs, and it's a lot easier to strip those out. So, and also the outer screws are the ones that are going to loosen up a lot more often. So having them be the 2.5 millimeter socket heads does help with that a little bit. And so now on the regular M3 2 millimeter, don't need to crank these down so hard that we strip the standoffs. And again, with this Nyogel being so sticky, these guys are almost always, they will very rarely back themselves out. I've got a zip tie in here going over to the holding this capacitor on, and it looks like it's getting pinched a little bit. Let me just take a second here to investigate this situation. What do we got here? Let's take this guy. It might not be pinched, but it might be. It's hard to tell. Just want to make sure that it's not, because if it is pinched, then this arm is not going to be sitting flat down. All right, you know what? I'm going to just for the sake of safety, I'm going to back these guys off in the rear here and just lift this plate up to make absolutely sure that this ain't getting pinched. Okay. All right. And so let's just pull outwards on this a little bit. This rear arm is a lot thicker than the normal glide arm. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so it's fine-ish. It was pinching it a little bit. Look at that. I'm glad I saw that. Okay, so I'm just going to hold it out while I tighten this one down, and that should be fine. It was only pinching like a little bit of the corner of the zip tie. And so now, if this is free, it'll be movable. Yeah, and it is. So that moves around. Okay, so that's good to go. All right. And Gamma Gonad says, I'm not sure why there was such a big difference between the 7-inch Glide Hammer and the 7-inch Cineglide, but the difference in the way they flew was massive. Read my previous comment. Gamma Gonad says, I've built like 6 or 7 7-inch quads, AOS UL7, and the 7-inch Cineglide have flown the best. I personally didn't have great luck with the 7-inch Glide Hammer frame. I'm planning to try and rebuild it soon. Interesting. It's render and it says, what do you expect the all-up weight to be on this rig? Shouldn't, it's going to be a large chase rig? Yep, large chase rig. All-up weight with those big-ass batteries, it's probably going to be about 1 kilogram, is going to be my guess. Maybe a little bit less than that, though. I'm hoping it's less than that. That's a bit insane. All right, so that feels good. That feels good. One last check. Oh, God, I'm glad I checked. I did not tighten this at all. Okay. Again, on these outside ones, I really crank these guys down because they take a lot of vibration. And then, in my opinion, the harder I crank these outside ones down, the less I have to crank these inside ones down that are jacked into the aluminum standoffs. And that's a good thing, because aluminum be stripping, bro. Also, on a build like this, and to be honest, most builds, don't run aluminum hardware. It is just a little bit too weak, and it will strip out a little too early. So now let's get these arm LEDs VHB'd back down here. And I'm going to use the VHB that's already on them. Okay. This one's pretty much already there, but just make sure it's centered. And the last one here. And I'm pushing these up a little bit just to make sure that I have as much space to leave these motor wires as long as possible. So there it is. That looks absolutely ridiculous. That is the silliest looking thing ever. Mainly because I've had glides forever with 5-inch arms, and this is just like the most gangly looking ridiculous thing on earth. So perfect. It's perfect. All right. Front motors are going to be much shorter than the rears. Let's do the rears first, I think. So, oh, I need some motor screws. Let's see if the motor screws that these motors came with are long enough. I bet you they aren't. That's a weird looking view for you guys. Hold on, let's do that. It looked like this camera was sideways a second ago. So it comes with... Nah, let's not do that, because this comes with button head screws. I don't want to use button head screws. Anything that's going to make a bunch of power and be big and gnarly, I really like to run socket headed screws. They're just so much more resistant to stripping out. And they give it a little bit of height in case like you land hard on the arm. And they don't strip out nearly as easily again because they have that extra little bit of height. So let's go in the stash here. And these are M3 by 9. These are probably going to be just about perfect. This is going to be really hard for me to show you. Yeah, that's where it's at. I'm going to do this work in my lap here. And so yeah, that's the right amount. The easy thing to do is just to hold the base plate of the motor up, just put the screw through, and then hold the base plate of the motor up, and you can literally see how much of the base that screw is going to go through. In this case, it's absolutely perfect. So these are the right screws. These you absolutely want to Loctite. So we are going to get that process kind of going here, because if I don't Loctite it now, I'm not going to come back and take it apart and do it. And so for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run the outer screws through here. And like, even if you're crazy like me with keeping your screws organized, just check it. Just put them into the arm and make absolutely sure that that they're going to be long enough. For right now, I'm just going to screw this motor down lightly to hold it in its exact correct position, so that I can get the length of these wires absolutely perfect. So just real quick, I kind of didn't need to Loctite it here, but God forbid I forget to Loctite it in a minute. This will be kind of nice. So the motor is perfectly in position, and then we're going to hold these down, bunch them together, run them down the arm, get them right up over the pads. These are some thick ass motor wires. These are going to be tough to get perfectly clean on those pads. Make sure they're not running off the side. Make sure they're running down the middle. And then all you really need to do is clip one of them, and then you can use that for the others. And there we go. So that's all set. What you can do to save a little bit of time at this point is hold this motor up against the other motor that's going to be in the rear, because again, this is going to have much longer motor wires in the rear because it's dead cat. And you can chop the other motor. So let me show you what I mean. I gotta grab some more of these back here. Denzel the Turbo says, "Ooh, CiottiFPV is building a big boy. What frame is this? This is a regular old glide frame, just with these gigantic arms and motors, 6mm thick, 7-inch arms, 7-inch dead cat arms. Bob never made these in 6mm thick. I had Ryan Harrell cut these for me, and so yeah, this is not. I do have one extra set of these arms, but I doubt that I will sell them. You never know, but yeah, I highly doubt that I will sell them. There's a better chance that Patrick will sell his set of arms because he's not using them at the moment, but I have a funny feeling he might revisit and use them again. So this is what I'm talking about. You can hold these motors like this, make sure they're perfectly lined up here, pull the wires out like this, and then you can cut all the wires at once. I'm actually not going to do that in this case. I'm going to bolt each motor down to make sure it sits absolutely perfect. But I am going to cut the rest of these motor wires here because I just cut that one. And so cross like that, and there we go. So one motor's good. Let's put this other one. Since these arms are, these runs are perfectly straight, I can actually do this on the exact same side here. So there and there. Take this fella. And just loosely screw these in. We just want to hold the motor in the exact right position. Sometimes motors will have like a big C-clip on the bottom, and so you can put the big C-clip into the center hole here and it'll kind of stay in position. This is not one of those motors. So we're going to do it this way. Only takes another couple seconds, no big deal. So run them down the arm, nice and flat. Matter of fact, I'm going to do this on the correct arm because the arm LED might be in a slightly different position on the one arm versus the other arm. So let's just do it all the way properly. No reason not to, really. All right, 1 and 2. All right, cool. So this is now motor number 3. Okay. Lay these guys flat. Make sure they're centered up real good. Not squidging around. When you're doing this, you're kind of like pulling on them a little bit with the friction of your finger. And then hold it here. And come across. And you just need to snip one of them. You don't even need to snip all the way through it. You just need to leave a dent that's obvious in one of them. Pop it off here. You could leave the motor bolted on, clip all 3 of them, but I like having the motor free when I solder to the race wire. It just gives me a little bit more sort of like adjustability, I guess you could say. Pull these out. Clip this guy the rest of the way. And then line this up with the other wires. All right, there we go. Come on, get in there. All right. Yeah, looking good. God damn it, Canon. Save these. Save these. These are what you can run between the ESC and the race wire. It's also just nice to have, especially in this case. This is big, thick. What is this? 14 gauge, 12 gauge? This is 12 gauge motor wire. That's gigantic. Yeah, save them scraps. Uriel says, I like to use the hot glue for fix. I'll ATR get recessi of. For what fix? UCanFPV says, I think I finally killed the 2G4. Right front motor likes to not spin up now when arming sometimes, and it will stall randomly at 0 throttle. I've swapped in a good motor and the same thing. Yep, that's a bad fet. Has to happen eventually. How many batteries do you think you have on that 2G4? I have 2G4s with like probably in the neighborhood of 1,000 batteries on them. They're just insane. All right, so let's get these stripped and tinned and soldered up. So you can the safe way of doing this is to use your fingernails. Come in here and just pinch, kind of rock it back and forth. Hold the wire here and then yank it off. Your fingernail will not nick any of the inner strands of wire. And then you're just going to come in here. Since you've pulled on that silicone insulation, you want to just kind of push it back down a little bit. It's a little bit quicker to use flush cutters, but the problem with the flush cutters is they're metal. And so if you grab too hard with the flush cutters, you will cut some of the inner strands of wire, and that's not good. So if you've done this a million times like me, you can get away with using the flush cutters to save a little bit of time. If not, use your fingernails. Or if you just want to be totally safe, use your fingernails. I didn't cut quite enough off of this one here. I'm going to actually put the headset on so I can see a little bit better. Okay. Yeah, this one I cut. The one that I did with my fingernails, actually. I didn't cut quite enough, which sucks. I hate having to come back and do this, but there we go. Got away with it. There's a much higher chance of nicking some of these inner strands of wire when you do what I just did. So try to get it right on the first hit. Okay. When the wires are this big, I do like to twist them up like this. The smaller wires, I don't bother. But yeah, there's probably like 50 to 100 inner strands of wire here. And so twisting them up like this does help them stay bundled together, which is nice. So there's one. Here's the other. And When you do this with the flush cutters, you're not really cutting the silicone insulation. You're just kind of denting it and getting a really good grip on it is a way to think about it. And just make sure you're really gripping down on the wire as hard as you can here. And so you should see it like squish out a little bit. And that's when you have a good grip on it. And what's cool is you can use like the thickness. I've gotten used to like using the thickness of the jaws of the cutters as like a guide to snip off the exact right amount of insulation. And there we go. It's just that easy. All right, so twist these two guys up here real quick. This one I might... Looks good when I pull the silicone back, but then the silicone bounces back forward. Nah, it's okay. It's just enough. You want to have the exact right amount of exposed wire for the size of the pad that you're soldering it to. And so in my case, I'm soldering it to these arm LEDs. And they have fairly long sort of pads on them. So that's the right length to strip off of the silicone. And so now the super easy way to do this is just to hang these off the edge of the desk. I usually don't do that because I try to do it up here for you guys to see. But since I've got crotch cam on, we can do it this way. Even better thing to do at this point that usually you skip is add a little bit of flux to the wires. So just a little blob, don't need much. This is going to help the heat transfer as quick as possible to the wire, and it's going to prevent the solder from chasing up the wire into the silicone insulation. There is flux in the core of the solder, but not quite enough. If you add a little bit more, you'll get really nice results. And so just bend these guys all so that they're roughly even so that you can get to each one of them, separate them a little bit, and pull out a good amount of solder here, and forget to turn your soldering iron on. It's an important step. Let me get a couple more motors out here and get them ready for the front arms. Front arms are going to be a lot shorter. Dead Cat really... It's like so drastic, the difference between the front and the rear arms on Dead Cat. It's kind of crazy. All right. Oh, this is the extra bell that I got. That's right. That was pretty cool that I was able to get this. I wondered why I would have bought 6 motors. I'm like, that's... I mean, 5, yeah, but like 6, that's a bit much for a rig that I'm not really going to be freestyling. But... now I get it. One of them was an extra bell. Okay. Soldering iron is at 710 degrees for this bigger work. 710 is absolutely awesome. Uriel says I have to sober up so I don't make so much type mistakes. You can say. You can have, he says, you probably close to 500 plus, but I learned everything on this board and have smashed it into the concrete many times. It's probably been through like 7 or 8 frames, 6 sets of motors. LOL. My God, yeah. 2G4s, man. Gamma Gonad says, I just measured the arms of my 7-inch glide hammer, not Dead Cat. They are 6 millimeter, and my 7-inch Cineglide, which are 5.5 millimeters. Strange. Yeah, no, I remember that. The glide, the hammer designation of the glide was that the arms were 6 millimeters. I ran those for a little while, regular 5-inch 6mm arms. The problem I had with them is that the arms would never break. They would break the sandwich plate and they would break the base plate, which is way more annoying to fix. So I stopped running those 6mm arms. And that was my big epiphany of let the arms break to save the other stuff like the motors and the base plates and the sandwich plates and whatnot. So... the tip of the soldering iron is going on the bottom of these wires, and then I'm pushing solder through the top. I'm trying to get solder in between all the individual strands of wire. So the whole end of the wire should be nice and shiny and smooth. If you're going to do this over your crotch like this, make sure you have pants on. This shit burns if it hits your skin. Actually, don't do it like that. Just bend the wires up like this and do it over your work surface. It's a much better idea. Molten TPU burns even worse though, and you can't get it off because it's so sticky. Ask me how I know. Before I had the 3D printer, I would repair all of my TPU mounts by just using a lighter and melting TPU into like the arm ends or whatever it may be. And one day that went horribly wrong and it hurt like hell, man. It fell on my foot and it just like stuck to my foot and burned the living shit out of me. That sucked. I don't know which motor is which now. I did not keep track of left motor versus right motor. I have these arm LEDs pretty close though. So I should be able to just kind of put it on here and figure it out. That looks pretty damn perfect on that one. Yeah, this one's for this one. All right, so let's do motor number 3 first. Like I said, I like to have the motor free so I can kind of move it around when I'm doing this soldering here. And so just make sure the frame's not going to move around on you. Get the arm LED into the right position so again, it's not also going to move around. And you can put the motor wherever you want. Just make sure that these the wires are going to be going straight to the pad. So since these wires have a little bit of a bend like this, I'm going to put the motor on this side. And I like to tuck the other 2 wires down below the arm just to keep them the hell out of the way. Get the wire into the perfect position before you come in with the heat. Soldering iron comes out of the stand. You clean it immediately. You don't clean it when you put it back into the stand. So get the soldering iron nice and clean. Tip of the soldering iron nice and clean, I should say. Hold your hand nice and flat to the table. Get the wire back into position. I should have put a little bit of flux on here. I'm going to stop and I'm going to add flux. Okay. Come on. There we go. A little bit of extra flux there. All right. Get the wire perfectly into position before you come in with the heat. All right, it's just right. And now push the silicone insulation all the way up against the pad so that the wires are going to sit flat against the pad and then the silicone hangs off. That is important. All right, so now I'm going to move the work a little bit. Always move the work. Don't move yourself around the work. All right, get the motor into position. Tuck this wire down and out of the way. And same deal. Make sure that the motor wire is in position before you come in with the heat. And so these next 2 are going to be a little bit more difficult because that first wire is on there. All right, that's looking good. Slide the silicone forward, push down a little bit, kind of flatten the wires out. Don't flatten the wires out too much though, because then they'll want to bridge. And that was a little bit ugly. I'm going to come back in. I'm going to hold both of these wires together. I'm going to just come back in and clean this up. Pushing down a little bit to flatten the wires out. And come off the pad. All right. All the flux burned up. I'm going to hit this one more time real quick just because the solder is trying to travel up the wire and follow the soldering iron. Not a big deal, but clean the tip of the soldering iron, come back in here super quick, and just hit it one more time with some flux on it. Much better. There we go, last one. And now again, I'm going to move the motor a little bit, just so that the wire is going to be perfectly positioned. You don't want to be doing that nonsense while the heat is on the pad. And so now at this point, these wires are all kind of hitting. These tweezers are a little too thick, so I'm actually going to switch to these really thin tweezers so that I can get this wire tight against the other ones that it's right next to. So, hold on. I was wondering why I couldn't see what the hell I was doing. This lamp was all the way up in the air. And so just grab it with the very tip so that you can get the wire nice and low. And there we go. Now I can get it a lot tighter to the other wires. We've already got some flux on that pad. Give it a second to melt. Make sure the silicone is butting up against the PCB. Flatten the wire out a little bit, and then get off of there. And there it is. That is what it should look like. Nice and smooth, hopefully shiny. The shiny thing is not a deal breaker as long as they're smooth and as long as they're not hanging all over the pads and getting close to one another. We've got a nice gap in between each one of them. We don't have any weirdness. We also don't have a big round blob of solder on there. This is the tiniest little bit too much solder, but I would always rather have a little bit too much solder than not quite enough. And so this is, in my opinion, pretty close to kind of perfect here. On these big wires, there's no excuses. You should absolutely be able to get that very close to that. On the little wires, it's significantly harder to get it looking quite that good. You still can. It is going to take some experience. But yeah, on great big wires like this, you should be able to get it looking pretty damn close to that. If not, just keep practicing. The soldering is part technique, much like FPV. It's part technique, part like just knowing what to do, and part just doing it. Just doing it over and over and over again is going to be one of the biggest things that kind of help out. So if you can't get your solder joints there yet, keep paying attention and keep trying. Don't fall into that trap where you're like, fuck it doesn't matter. I'm just going to bash it into something anyway. Like, no, I mean, you are going to bash it into stuff, but still, do it right. Do it right. I'm only going to put 2 screws in for the time being, but I am going to Loctite them so that I don't forget. And there we go. I always do 2 screws instead of 1 so that the motor is lined up properly and I don't have to come back and loosen the one up and rotate it around and all that jazz. So there we go. I've got a little tiny bit too much wire here, but we'll throw a little wrap of tape around there. I'll do some white electric tape. And also I can just scooch this arm LED forward a little bit. I'm actually going to do that right now. So put these wires flat. This might have been the motor for number 1, but that's okay. So get this guy down here, throw a little wrap of tape. You never want to leave these totally hanging out in the wind like this anyway. And I might need to put another little bit of VHB on there, but it'll be fine. Yeah, this VHB is losing a little bit of its stickiness. If you want to be lazy and or quick, a little bit of heat brings VHB back to life. So if I hold this VHB like this and then just warm it up a little bit, burn my thumb a little bit. Ah, yabba! That'll bring that VHB back to life. Just enough so that it holds on. There we go. Cool. That's looking good. Let's do this other side. All right. What is 8:30 already? Shit, I was hoping to get all 4 of these done and then get this weighed. We will get this weighed for sure. I might just have to pile everything on top of the scale or just like weigh stuff individually. Where's that other motor? Here it is. These are already bing bonged in the fling flong, so let's wing wong the ding dong. Here we go. Don't do screw the motors down once you get them like that. Don't let them hang off. It's gonna stress the connection point between the windings and the wires out a little bit more than what you want. And so let's get a little bit of Loctite on here. This is MG Chemicals Loctite. It comes with this fantastic little applicator brush kind of setup. Mercury Adhesives, not MG Chemicals, sorry. Mercury Adhesives Thread Locker. It's actually, inside of there is, what did I do that for? I'm doing this out of order. Inside of there, I used all of the thread locker that was in there, and then I started dumping regular old Loctite. So this is actually blue Loctite that's in here. All right, so let's get this motor soldered up here. Same kind of deal. We're going to do a little bit of flux. I'm going to put it on the wires this time. That's really where we want it, because that's the first thing the soldering iron's going to hit. And there we go. Okay, so now these wires are kind of bending the other way, so I'm going to hold this like this. And clean the tip of the soldering iron. Focus on getting the wire exactly where it needs to be before coming in with the heat. Move the work to you. Never you to the work. Okay, get that lined up just right. This might be I think this is the pad that I wanted to add a little bit of extra solder to, but let's see. Let's see if there's enough here. Scooch the wire forward so that the silicone butts up against the PCB. And yeah, I'm just going to add a little tiny bit of extra solder onto this. This is actually totally fine, to be really honest. But again, I would rather have a little bit of extra solder than not quite enough. Technically, the correct amount of solder is just barely enough solder that you can see the individual strands of wire. The problem is, down on the bottom of the wire, between the wire and the pad, if you don't have quite enough solder, it's not going to be a smooth corner down there, and that's really bad. That's a much weaker solder joint when that happens. So again, I would rather have a little bit extra than not quite enough. Second one, slide it forward, make sure the silicone is against the board. Good to go. Don't blow on these, just wait. Just wait for them to cool. And now this third one. I might need to get the skinny. Nah, we'll be okay. That pad does need a little bit extra solder on it. I'm just picking up a little bit of extra solder with the tip of the iron. Bring it in here, push down a little bit. Kind of flatten the wires out. There we go, that looks better. Okay, and I'm going to add just a little bit of solder to this middle wire as well. Just sneak in here with the tweezers, pick a little bit of solder up with the tip of the iron, and just dab it in here. This is a great way to bridge wires together. There we go. Nice. Got away with it on that one. All right, cool. No bridges. I want to hit this first wire one more time. Just a little bit extra solder. I don't know why it's sucking up so much solder here on this one. Ah, there we go. That's better. That's better. If you kind of pop the tip of the soldering iron away from the pad, a lot of times it'll like the solder wants to come with the heat. And so if you more quickly remove it from the joint, that'll prevent that little Hershey Kiss looking thing on the blob of solder. That's what you just kind of saw me do right at the very end there. Ah! All right, let me just make sure I have enough of this blue Loctite on here. All right, that's looking good. And there's number 1. Here comes number 2. Who does number 2 work for? Okay. And there we go. Yes, indeed. Preparation H feels nice on the whole. Crank these 2 down. And onto the front. Cool. Look at that. Gangly, gangly, gangly son of a bitch. Jeez. That's ridiculous looking. I can't get over how silly that looks. All right. Jimmy the Cow says, are these motors strong enough for you to just send it, bro? They are indeed. Kevin Sumner says, perfect life lesson right there. Right there for everything. Do it right, yeah. Danzilla Terrible says, are these motors going to be juicy enough to rip this beast? We'll see. I don't think I think these motors will get a little bit too hot trying to like really freestyle it, but this is not for freestyle. This is for going fast and being like, you know, being able to control a heavy ass, really draggy 7-inch propeller. That's kind of the name of the game here. And yeah, it might not be enough motor. We'll see. We'll see. I have high hopes, though, that this will be just barely enough. I would really love it if this was like ultra efficient on these motors, and it kind of should be. Like this is the recipe for efficiency, right? Like you look at the Avata 2 that runs for like 14 hours on one battery, and it's got motors that are roughly 2-to-1 ratio of width to height. That's a motor that's going to be able to do a lot of work for a short period of time, but then it's going to be as light as possible. And that's how you build something that's ultra efficient. It's not how you build something to have great flight characteristics, though, and so that like kind of freaks me out about this build. But I mean, this is like I said, there have been people that have done 7-inch builds on these exact motors, and they've really dug them. These are, including Bob, actually. Rugi did. This was the very first motor that Rugi put on a 7-inch build that was like acceptable for him. And he has he A, has high standards. He B, does not PID tune. He leaves the stock tune, and he like mechanically PID tunes by running motors and props that pair up well. Basically running a motor that's a little too big to give really good response time, even though you're not pushing the PIDs. It's a really cool way of setting a build up, and he really liked these motors when he ran them. So yeah, this should be good. We'll know soon enough. All right, so I nicked that one motor wire, and now we're just going to cut straight across for the other ones. And so yeah, much shorter on these front motors, because dead cat life So now let's just strip these real quick. What you doing, Tedwardo? Hanging out? What you doing, buddy? Just hanging? Being a good dog or being a bad dog? Which is it? Tell me now. I cannot take this dog seriously in these fucking pajamas. I just can't. Come back, buddy. Come back. Come here. Come here. Come here, little boy. There he is. Look at him. Look at him. Look how ridiculous he looks. He's got a butt flap and everything. It's a non-functional butt flap, though. Tired, boy? There's a big rip in it, though, which is kind of annoying. But look at him! Look at him! It goes into his little back paws there. There it is. Little shit. Oh, my God. He's here for our pleasure, as far as I'm concerned. Like, we keep him alive. We give him this place to live, rent-free. And so, you know what, dude? You're going to have to wear some crazy shit if it makes us laugh. That's just the way it is. You got nobody to impress. You're never going to mate again. You're never going to have a girlfriend. So, you're here for us, buddy boy. All right, so here's what I'm talking about. Just bend these wires up. Oh, sorry. Bend these wires up like this so that you can tin them over your work surface. Hanging them off the end of the desk is stupid. Blob of flux here. Pull a good amount of solder out and clean the tip of the soldering iron. Tip of the soldering iron goes below. Solder gets fed in from above. There we go. All right. And I always put a little bit of solder on the tip of the soldering iron just to get a bigger contact patch. You want to do this as quick as possible. The longer that you're here, the more solder is going to chase down the silicone. So you want to do this as quick as possible. That's why you add the little bit of flux to the wires. And that's why you use, on big wires like this, 700 degrees Fahrenheit, in my opinion. Also helps to take a quick look at the bottom of the wire to make sure that the solder went all the way through. All right, cool. So this was motor number 4 that I just did. Just going to knock this out real quick. And when the motor wires are short like this, I'll usually do the first one by hand. Although this is the pad that absolutely needs more solder. This one pad, all the solder came with the wire on the other motor. So put the tip of the soldering iron on the pad itself to heat the pad up, and then push solder into the pad itself. There we go. That's much better. All right, and so yeah, on these little short motors, the first one I can always do by hand. Push down on the wire, push forward on the silicone. Give it a second. The reason why we wait is we need to give both the pad and the wire time to heat all the way up. There we go. And now the next two we are going to do with tweezers, just because they get pretty hot and you can burn your little fingies, and you really want to be able to hold the wire up here where it connects to the pad. You don't want to be holding the wire like 2 inches down. You won't have enough control over it. You want to be able to push this wire down and forward. There we go. The second one looks a lot better than the first one. I'm actually going to redo that first one. It's a little ugly. And now the third one is always a little bit harder because the wires are getting closer and closer together. If you have to use thin tweezers, that's fine. I made it work here with these. And now I'm just going to redo this first wire. It just got a little bit ugly. Pick up a little solder. And just rework this one real quick. When you rework these, make sure that you get them hot enough. Don't rework it and just stay on the pad for a half a second and get off of there. That's going to create a cold solder joint. Make sure that you get the pad and the wires hot enough. Cool. There's that one. One more, and we are 7-inched. Right. Let's get a couple of screws in this motor, though. Okay. Hold on. Just want to make sure that these are both M3x9. I've never seen M3x9 screws for sale. They used to come with T-motor motors. And so I've got tons of them because I've bought lots of T-motor stuff. But yeah, M3x9 is the perfect length here for a 6mm thick arm. Okay. And there we are. Oh, get in there. There we go. Okay. Uriel says, "You're bad to Teddy." Fail. No, I'm not. I'm great to that dog. I let him lay on me for hours. Show us the spaghetti, Jimmy the Cow says. Uriel says he feels shame. Gamma Goanad says, "I carry 5,200 mAh 6S batteries." Good Lord. On the AOS UL7 running Bob's 28mm 1300 kV 7-8-inch motors. Plenty of power to do light acro. Nice. Denzel the Turtle says, "Teddy is a better dresser than CiottiFPV." Yeah, I said it. That is simply not true. I'm quite the snappy dresser. Ugh. Okay. That's cranked. And again, a little bit of extra wire here. That's why it's kind of doing this thing. But I always like to cut these a little bit too long in case. And again, that's what's nice about having these arm LEDs. You can always just kind of move them forward or back if you do have motor wires that are a little bit too short or a little bit too long. Last one. Here we go. Two more M3x9s. All right. Get off of there. There we go. Okay. Nice chill building stream tonight. Nothing wrong with that. Hey, fly your 6 batteries, friends. Don't just sit here watching me screw screws in. Fly 6 Tiny Whoop batteries. Tomorrow you will thank you. We'll thank yesterday you, which is actually today. Right now, as a matter of fact. Who's building? Who flew their 6 batteries today already? Somebody. Come on. Admit it. Cop to it. All right. That's looking good. Come on. All right. Kevin Sumner is finally building 2S75 with HD0 AIO15. Very, very cool. Denzel the Trouble says, guaranteed CiottiFPV wears fancy nether pants for Maggie. I have one pair of underwear that's not like totally... I'll put it this way. I have one pair of underwear that weren't sold in a pack. You know what I mean? Well, And you should too, for the record. You should at least have one pair of underwear that you pay like $10 for. Life advice right there. At least one. Think of how many pairs of hot underwear that women have. You need at least one. If all of your underwear came in multi-packs, then next time you're at a store that sells clothes, treat yourself. All right, and 3. And there we have it. All of the stripping is done. No more strippers tonight, friends. Stripper hour is over. No more strippers, male or female. All right, twist these up a little bit. Looking good. The other reason that I'm twisting these up is that these are giant motor wires. The thicker the motor wire is, especially if you're connecting them to race wire LEDs, the more you want to kind of twist it up to make sure that it doesn't flatten out too much and bridge between the pads. And so on giant 12 gauge wires like this, I'm really making it a point to twist these things up, so that when I'm pushing down with the tip of the soldering iron, they don't fray out like crazy and try to bridge between the pads. There's a method to this madness. Oh God, Danzilla, that's insane. Matthew Wegner says, I call yesterday Matthew past you. We both flew batteries. Hell yeah. Nice, dude. Alright. Heat source on one side of the exposed wires. Push the solder from the other side. To get the heat transfer started, what I'll do is I'll push the solder into like the little corner, the little angle between the wire and the tip of the soldering iron. So if this is the tip of the soldering iron, and this is the wire, right, the bundle of wires, I'll put the tip of the soldering iron here, and then I'll push a little bit of solder right here, right in between these two. And then that will cause the blob of solder to come up over the strands of wire. So that's a good, because if you just bring this up, you'll sit the soldering iron here for a while before it transfers the heat. So pick it up here and then push the solder into the corner here between the two of them, and it'll get the heat really transfer into the individual strands of wire nice and quick. That way you can get in and on, you get on and off that pad as quickly as possible. All right, last one. I do need to add a little bit of solder to this one pad. That left pad again. There we go. While you're at it, it doesn't hurt to just go in here and just make sure that there's solder edge to edge on these pads. I'm actually going to add a little bit to that one there. And now I'll do this first one by hand. I'm mainly doing the first one by hand like this just to save a tiny little bit of time. What sucks is when I get it wrong and then I have to redo it. But in that case, I got it pretty much perfect. Put the motor in a place that's comfortable. Move the work to you, not you to the work. And get the wire in the perfect position. Then come in with the heat. Not enough solder here. Let it cool. I should have had my little spool of solder ready to go here, but it was on the other side there. Pick up a little bit of extra solder. The tip of this soldering iron is a little bit dirty right now, but we gonna be all right. There we go. That looks pretty good. Then we got one more. I can probably just get this one done without having to clean it. There we go. Make sure you can get the silicone up far enough. Yeah, it's struggling a little bit to transfer the heat, but got it done. And there we go. Awesome. Cool. And now I'm going to leave the tip of this soldering iron dirty and put it back into the stand. That will keep that layer of solder on the tip of that will keep the tip of the soldering iron from corroding. So never clean the soldering iron before you put it back into the stand. Put it back into the stand dirty, and it'll last a little bit longer. Now we are going to put 6 screws in. 2 here, 3 here, and then 3 on all the other arms. Because I only put 2 on the other arms. I'm going to run... I should probably run 4 screws on this build. It's not a build that has to be super lightweight, and it's going to be so heavy that the weight savings of 4 less screws from a percentage-wise is practically nothing. So this is a good build to do 4 motor screws on. 4 motor screws is like the only realistically the only thing it's going to help with is if you have a motor screw that falls out, right? If you have 4 motor screws and one falls out, nothing bad's going to happen. If you have 3 motor screws and one falls out, that could start to get a little bit rough. You're probably still fine, to be honest, but yeah, it's going to be a worse situation than if you have 4 and then lose 1. I tightened that first screw down, and of course that made it impossible for me to catch the threads on the second screw, so never do that. All right, there we go. It is 8:57. I am not going to put the extra 4 screws in here right now. We're going to get this thing on the scale. I'm going to put some gigantic propellers on it just to see how absolutely insane it looks. And yeah, we're pretty much good. This is a working rig, so like we don't. I mean, it would technically fly like this. I am gonna plug it into Betaflight and check some stuff. I'm super curious to see if these propellers are gonna clear though. So let me go grab some 7-inch. Well, I have 2 of them right here. These are the props that I use in examples. So let's see. Look at that. They clear. Jesus, that looks insane. I am going to run this props in because there's 0% chance of me crashing this through trees. Let's get... Oh, wait. Hold on. I've got a bag with 7-inch props, I believe, somewhere. Floating around? Where the hell are they? What do I do with them? Cineglide. We got some of these. Here it is. Big old bag of 7-inch propellers. Let's see what we got. Oh, these are ridiculous. Gemfan 7041s. But the first ones that I want to try are these glass nylons. I've had these for a while. That's what was just on it. I think I remember somebody saying that these are well balanced. 7035. Gemfan 7035. There's a left. There's a left. I need a right. Yep. Here we go. And so yeah, these are the first ones I'll try, but I'm gonna try a lot of these different propellers. There's a chance that these motors won't have enough grunt for these tri-blades. That's fine. I would really love to have this thing be bi-blade only, but for right now, from like a vibration standpoint, I'm gonna try the I'm gonna try the tri-blades. Tri-blades tend to be better balanced than bi-blades, and so we'll start here and then move on from there. The glass nylon thing is interesting. This is a more, I don't know if it's a more dense material, but it's a stiffer material, so that will raise the frequency of the vibrations, and that's a good thing. One of the problems that we have with the really big stuff is that the vibrations happen at too low of a frequency, and it starts to interfere with the natural movement, the frequencies that occur with the natural movement of the quad itself. Where the hell are my motor nuts? Oh, they're in the other one, aren't they? They're in... Yeah, they're in here. All right, so let's get 4 black. A really subtle kind of thing, but a thing for sure. Your motor nuts, you want them to be smooth on the bottom like this. You don't want them to have ridges on the bottom. I'm so tired of these companies giving you these motor nuts that have ridges on the bottom, because the ridges on the bottom, like that, that's going to try to grab the propeller and spin the propeller. You don't want that. You want it to be smooth so that the nut pushes down on the propeller. It doesn't try to spin the damn thing. So whenever you get motor nuts with those grooves on the bottom, throw them away. And then whenever you get ones that are smooth on the bottom like these, hoard them. Like the little hoarder that I know that you are. You're in good company though, so... I'm trying to find... I've got 3 that are a little bit beat up. Here's 4. Awesome. No, that one's maybe a little bit too beat up. Do I have another one that's not so beat up? I do not. That's fine. It's fine. Alright, so... that's a pretty subtle thing, but like, yeah, that's just one of those little annoying things. I'm not going to crank these down because I don't know what direction these motors are spinning, and there isn't a chance in hell that I'm going to spin this thing up with props on in the motors tab. So I'm just going to loosely throw these on here. And holy shit, that is... Oh, you son of a bitch. That is a gangly looking quad. Gamagonad likes the Gemfan 7040s. Is that the other ones that I said that I had a minute ago? I hope so. Let me fix this. Okay, there's that. And let me get this scale out here. There we go. That's better. Look at this gangly mofo. Ready? Are you ready for this? It looks so stupid. Doesn't look like anything hits. This propeller does swing pretty close to this GoPro mount, but boy, it clears it by like an millimeter. They don't hit front to rear. Look at that, boy. Woo! Dry, no GoPro, no battery, no nothing. Just with the giant fucking motors. That's not bad. 556, yo. Alright, so 556. This is designed to carry a Hero 12, which is going to bump it up to 702. And then the battery that I have a feeling I'm going to end up liking the most is the Tattoo R-Line 6S 1700 version 1. Ah, 963, just below a kilogram. Awesome. Beautiful. And this is the bigger battery. I think it'll be fine on the 1400s. Let's see what it weighs with those. 6S 1400 version 4, 923 grams. So just shy of a kilogram. That's absolutely awesome. I'm digging that. So yeah, there it is. That's absurd. That is way sillier looking than I thought it was going to be. So I need to tape these motor wires down, put some fresh VHB on these guys, take these props back off, get it into beta flight, spin it up, see what's what. I am not going to fly this with the GoPro initially, just in case it falls out of the air. But I'm going to get the GoPro put on there pretty quick because I'm dying to know if there's going to be jello, if there's going to be any other weirdness. That is crazy looking. This is going to be very nose heavy. Again, another reason that I was really looking forward to doing this with the Cineglide. The battery bay on the Cineglide sits back further. So like if you look at the center line of the motors on this, right? The rear motor is all the way back here. The farthest back I can slide the battery is going to be about here. So yeah, this is going to be very front heavy. But you know, it's a cruiser. It being front heavy, that's going to work the front motors harder aerodynamically. The rear motors have more work to do. And so if this was a freestyle rig, this would not be a great center of gravity. But as a cruiser, this should actually be fine. And it might, it being front heavy, it might actually load the front motors down so that they're doing the same amount of work as the rear motors. You never know. But yeah, super, my God. Ah! Wow, that's not bad. There's a little bit of deflection on the rear arm. The front arms are like solid as shit. Wow, yo, 6mm arms are really strong. This might be okay. Damn. All right. All right. I'll see if I can get this up in the air tomorrow, maybe. What a thing. What a thing. Look at the size of this monster. Jesus. Thanks for hanging, friends. I'll do a little bit more work on that guy and see if I can get it up in the air this weekend. If not, I'll get it up in the air next week for sure. And we'll see what the 7-inch life is all about. Let me get caught up on chat a little bit here, and then we'll go enjoy the rest of our Friday nights. For the record, I may have missed a couple chat comments. I apologize, but I really wanted to get this thing wrapped up to give you guys the weights and all that jazz. Life Behind Bars says, hey, bud, just finished my 2G4 Mobula 7. This thing rips. Very cool. 2G4 Mobula 7. What motor did you put on? Tell me. Well, I flew my 6 plus 12. Yeah. What motor did you put on? Penguin says, at $30 a motor, I'd try and figure out how to put a 5th screw in. Kevin Sumner says, saying 0% chance of X definitely invokes Murphy's Law. You're not doomed on your maiden in that build. Yeah, very well. You might be right. Captain Calgary's in the house. He says, what are the antennas you use on your whoops? Sorry, just got here. Over on my Etsy store, I've got these awesome custom length ORT micro Vs. They are 46mm and they have a little bit of extra shrink wrap here to make them a little bit stronger. And then 46mm is like the exact right length. 50 is a little bit too long. It just hangs out a little bit too far. 40 is a little bit too short. So yeah, mine are 46 and they're awesome. I sell them for what everybody else sells them for. Hopefully you feel good supporting a donkey rather than some other donkey. Supporting a donkey that makes content and helps you build stuff that flies really good versus supporting some other donkey that does donkey things. Gamma Gonad says, GemFan 74 is my go-to. Anything Dow sucks ass. They deflect like a mofo. Life Behind Bars says, I just got a set of damaged Nightwing 27,000s and a Bleed Eye. Nice for the night rig with LEDs. I'll let you know my thoughts on them hopefully next stream. Thank you. Very cool. The Tree Toppers. Nice. You're going to like those. Everything Simplified says, is there a way/guide how to determine which batteries fit in which whoop frame? Not really, but a 65mm whoop frame is going to fit all of the 300 mAh and 260 mAh batteries. So it's pretty straightforward. Uriel says, you're the GOAT. Thank you, dude. J-Dub says, did ORT ever get back to you about the purple ones? They did. No purple for us. Purple was very specific for Tiny Whoop. But I can get red, blue, and yellow. I have red, blue, and yellow, and I can get more red, blue, and yellow. You can FPV says, support your local donkey. Captain Calorie says, awesome, thanks. Let me just really quick scroll up to make sure I didn't miss anything insane. Here's what we're talking about. Teddy. I think I got everything. Yeah, I think I got everything. Thanks for hanging, friends. I'll see you guys on Sunday. Sunday, we're going to do Air 75. Beta FPV sent me an Air 7504. And so on Friday, I think we're going to get that thing built. I'm just going to drop an 04 into it. And we'll see how that thing, how a 1S 75mm, it's a Pro, 75mm Pro with 04. We'll see how that does. Denzel Terrible with the last comment of the live stream. He says, Life Pro Hack, put painter's tape around antenna wire, spray paint head purple. There it is. Thanks, friends. See you Sunday. CiottiFPV.com if you like this kind of content and want to see it continue. I do 100% rely on you guys to keep this going. This way, when I review stuff, you're paying the bills, and so I'm going to be totally honest. If it sucks, I'll tell you it sucks. Be good. Here's some more flying the Cineglide, big pitch props, big ass motors. The next outdoor flight footage like this you'll see will be with 7-inch propellers. Hopefully Sunday, maybe Monday, maybe Wednesday. Probably not Wednesday, but hopefully Sunday or Monday. Beginning of the stream, you were watching me rip it around on 5152 propellers. Here comes 5536 propellers, and this is through the this is through 03. 5536 props. Be good, friends. I'll see you Sunday. Have an awesome weekend. Come on, get over here.
Yeah. Out in the yard where the grass grows wild, CiottiFPV's goggles locked, grinning like a child. Teddy Spaghetti's fur flies and jet wash dreams, yeah. Chasing small whoops like a dog possessed fiend. Eyes on a neon blur, hard in the chase. Big fuzz and prop spin all tangled in place, yeah. Four-legged rebel with a rotor stir tail in the circus of the sky. They never fail. CiottiFPV, Teddy Spaghetti, dynamic duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed. They zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a toothy smile. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sadi's on sticks, Teddy's on paws. Side by side, legends breaking all the laws. Through the kitchen, over couch scale terrain. Backyard mayhem in their flight domain. No ground too sacred, no loop too tight. Fuzz, fuel, fury ignites the night. When pilot and pup lock eyes on the prize, every whoop they conquer is a fresh cut surprise. Yeah, yo, Sadi behind the sticks, Teddy's leading the pack. Prop guard missiles unleashed, never looking back. No leash, no map, just freestyle mic. They on the dog drone streets every day and night. Said whoops, hitting low, gotta nail the dive. Teddy push throttle up, feel the beast come alive. I see the neon arc got the sticks locked in, Teddy. Yeah. Let's rip this loop, ride the roar of the wind, Teddy. Yep, yeah. CiottiFPV, yeah. Teddy's spaghetti, diamond and duo kings, barking at the breeze, throttling at top speed, zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a toothy smile. Teddy's spaghetti. Barking at the breeze, rocking at top speed, zooming through hoops, flipping in style. That schnauzer's got throttle and a toothy smile. Yeah, when you hear that bar cut the rotor hum, you know Ciotty and Teddy's mission's just begun. FPV's fur-faced legends singing loud. Yeah, Teddy spaghetti and CiottiFPV always proud.